Professor Brain Brown's research shows that vulnerability fosters good emotional and mental health. It is a sign of courage. We become more resilient and brave when we embrace who we truly are and what we are feeling. The Vulnerable Scientist podcast is a space for scientists to tell their honest and authentic stories. I am your host, Sarah Nyakeri, who happens to be a scientist, informal science communicator, and I help scientists create personal websites. If you want to support this show, go to www.patreon.com/thevulnerable-scientist. You can also follow this podcast on all social media platforms at TV Scientist Pod. It's the details that matter. So welcome to Dr. Christian's story, part 3, and I hope you gather something from it.
But let me tell you, I find my way to get into that room.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So I used to be a very shy boy.
Okay.
But that day, I said, I am playing all my life here, whether I fail or I win. That's why I managed everything to find my way in that hall where I was not invited. I went to seek somewhere far back. So I was looking at him, and the guy, in fact, the person is still my current director today. He was called Apollinaire, and that time he was the technology manager at Baker.
Okay.
I never knew him before. I never met him, never heard about him before. So at the end of his conference, there were lecturers around him, chatting, discussing with him, etc. I just decided I will talk to this man before he leaves this campus. So if he was moving one step, I move one step. If he moves backward one step, I also move to make sure that I keep at least the same distance with him.
You're a stalker, like literally.
Yes. So as soon as I found a little gap between me and him, so when the lecturers a bit gave the way, I went to him. I had maximum a minute to express all my problems. So I went to him, I joined to him, I introduced myself. I did everything in less than 45 seconds.
What?
Introducing myself. I'm doing this. These are my problems. I heard you are working somewhere, you can help me. This is how you can help me. He said, who are you? I repeated what I was saying. He said, wow. Then he gave me his business card. He said, write to me and send me your concept note. So that's what I did. That time, internet was not like today. I was not having a private computer. So I went to a cyber, how do we call it?
Cyber cafe.
Cyber cafe. That is where I went, bought a 1-hour connection, sit on a computer, and type my concept note, 2 pages. That time Baker was requesting only 2 pages word concept note. So I sent to that email, and I think it is what he sent to Rob Skilton, who was the capacity building officer at that time, who evaluated it. And that's how November 2011, I received the email from Rob Skilton. Yes, informing me about the good news. That's how I found myself in Kenya in 2012.
Did you rehearse that 45-second introduction?
No, when you are now given the opportunity to say better, for me, I wanted the first 45 seconds was to say something before he leaves. Now, when he wanted to listen more, I took
that's
more
when you
time.
explain more. Yeah,
explain more. And that's how he gave me the opportunity. He gave me his business card.
I'm laughing because it's funny. Just imagine, I'm just in my head imagining a place. I don't know how you entered that room, but you just sat somewhere aiming at someone you've never met. You've just had rumors that this guy, but they can help you. Then you just sit somewhere and you're aiming at someone. This person doesn't know that he's being aimed. So when he moves, someone is moving with him.
No, I had to succeed.
Yeah, I love
had to
that.
at least talk to him. That's why I don't know how I managed to cross the door because there was a security person at the door normally checking who I, but I don't know how I crossed the door, but I was inside. And I talked to
it's the resilience for me.
Yeah, that's my life.
Thanks for sharing that story. Wow. So how long did it take for you? Because after you finished your PhD, were you still in Kenya or did you go back to Cameroon?
No, when I finished my
Tiambo?
fellowship here, yes.
Can you come closer to where you were? Move to where you were before.
Is it okay now?
Yes, now that's better sound. Because the other way you're sounding, there's a lot of echo from the background.
Okay. So when I finished my fellowship here, I returned to Cameroon. And by the time I was returning, I had an offer for another university. So I moved to that university when I started teaching.
Which university?
University of Buea.
Okay.
Yes. And this is where I finally implemented the grant I told you.
Oh, the one that you wrote and you succeeded.
The first one. It was my very first grant.
Tell me about that. People don't talk about this, by the way. People don't talk about the grant writing and the sadness or happiness that comes out of it. Can you talk about that? Because this is your first.
Yes, it was my very first one. So when I was here then doing that fellowship, Dr. Njiken, Apollinaire here, received that call for proposal for the Africa-Brazil marketplace concept node. So he shared with the fellows, and I just took it as an opportunity. I started writing on it. And I had to look for a partner also in Brazil because it need to be a partnership between Brazil and the host institution. So I had a partner from Embrapa Pantanal. We are still collaborating very well today. And I just thought about an idea how I can use the poultry production system to improve the livelihood of populations around me. So I started writing the concept note. I share a bit with almost everybody here, including the communication officer. That was Ethel Makila, was the communication officer of Baker. I share with Val Allo, who was managing the capacity buildings, and even some other research associates. So everybody, without discrimination, they gave me ideas. So I just used that to amend what I was already having. Then I was to organize also a call with the partner in Brazil to share the ideas, and we build it all together. But when it was when the concept note was ready, I can say semi-ready, now I had to finalize it with the partners. So I requested few days leave from the Baker management that time. And I was staying here at the hostels. So I spent almost, 4 days in the room, going out only for lunch and returning to my room to write that proposal. And I was using the opportunity of the internet availability in Baker. Let me tell you, internet at Erie was, for me, also a great thing, transformation, because back home, or in the national system, we never got such performance of internet. So I was Skyping, using Skype to chat with my colleagues from Brazil almost every day to fine-tune the proposals, to work on the budget, etc. And the project was on sustainable breeding of indigenous poultry to improve livelihood of population, using locally available material. So the essence of the concept note was to, of course, working with local chicken, producing chicks that we disseminate to the population. Farmers, of course, women and youth, we train them how to raise the chicken. But most importantly, how to use locally available feed ingredients to formulate good quality feed and give to your farmers, and how to use ethnopharmacopoeia. It means locally available plant with medicinal properties to replace commercial poultry drugs, to make sure that even the farmers in remote areas with access to no feed store, access to no vet, can still produce and satisfy their need for incomes or food security or whatever. And when doing that, we also notice that one of the challenges is access to chicks. That's why we set in the project a hatchery to brood the chicks, vaccinate them, and distribute them at 1 month old to farmers and monitor them. And one of the challenges also in the project was feed. When you give mash feed to your grandmother at home, a lot is wasted, because by natural behavior of the poultry, they used to scratch the ground when they are feeding. It means there is a lot of waste of that mash feed. That's why we also decided to be pelleting the feed before giving to farmers. And we train them also doing that in such a way that each pellet has almost all the nutrients that the chicken will need. And in the morning, before releasing in the semi-scavenging production systems, the farmer in the rural areas can just pick a handful, full hand of the pellet, throw to the chicks, they feed before they are released for scavenging over the day. And that really improved the performance of the animals, and some are still using the systems. Of course, we also introduced some of the locally improved breed that are still, we call it the Keambou chicken. You can still find them. Anyway, a lot of farmers are still developing it alongside with some of the improved breeds that we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just talking about that, why is it important to improve breeds of chicken? For someone who is so into, you need to put the indigenous, or rather the kienyeji as we say it here. I'm assuming that's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So why is it important to improve the breed of chicken?
Okay, well, so there is a sentence I used to put in quote. People used to say indigenous chicken are less productive. Yes, it is somehow true. Their performances are lower than the exotic breeds, which are also available. But their need for input are also lower. That's why I used to put that in quote, because if your output is low because your input are also low, at the end is the balance between to see what is the benefit, what is the benefit for the farmers. But we also notice that while improving just few things in the production system, the management of your flock, and also putting in some animals which can increase the performance or the productivity while still coping with the local production systems, with the skills of our farmers to manage them, was very important. That's why we decided to move a bit from the pure local chicken to those which are still locally adapted, but a little bit more productive.
Okay.
But we always have to put them in the good production system, the good conditions for them to express their best potential.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now you've gotten this grant. Oh, now you're in the writing process of the grant, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're telling a story about the grant writing.
Yes, I was telling you, I spent a week here writing the grant, and coming out only lunchtime to eat. Then finally we submitted, and it was successful by the time I was returning to Cameroon. We took some time, and then finally we implemented it. And it was a very, very good success also locally. And I think it's still also, that model is still used for many people in different countries.
Oh, you implemented it where?
In Cameroon.
Oh, so you
Cameroon and Brazil. We implemented in Cameroon and in Brazil.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're still, at that time, you're still a lecturer at Boya?
Yes, I was still lecturer at Boya. So we implemented the project from 2013 to 2015.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Then
after 2015, what happened?
Okay, the grant ended. Of course, I was already highly involved with JQuat here, Pausti.
Wait, how were you... I don't know. You've kept mentioning that Pausti JQuat, which is actually in Kenya. Mm-hmm. How were you a lecturer in Kenya while in Cameroon?
Okay, generally the Pan-African universities on the annual base, they have call for experts or for lecturers to come and support in teaching, research, supervision, or just being examinator for the PhD and MSc, for example. So I applied and I was selected. That's how it's from 2015, 2016, I started teaching at Pausti. But in Cameroon, I was also teaching in some other private university, of course.
So you're supervising while you're still in Cameroon? You're teaching while you're still in Cameroon?
Yes, coming to Kenya for a block period. No, yeah, coming to Kenya, stay here for a month or more. Just time for you to cover all your lectures, to evaluate, and return.
Oh, okay. So
but now when coming to Pausti at Juja, yes, I was also using that opportunity to come to Ilri, to take my students from Juja to Ilri to see exactly the kind of science Ilri and Baker was doing. And of course, that time I was also doing some consultancies with the African Union, AUIBA here, still on livestock, whatever. So, yeah, remember I told you when I was, that gap I had during my PhD, I used that as an opportunity to build my capacities on consultancies, working with local communities at the ground level. Yes.
Why was it important to you to bring your students to Ilri and see what is happening?
Yes, imagine during
because I'm imagining this is not part of your mandate, really. You're just coming to teach. Why was it important for you to do that?
Yes. When we are teaching, for us, it's not, for a lecturer, it's not, you are not just focusing at giving notes to teachers, to students, evaluating for them to have marks and graduate. You try also to connect them to the real world of their domain. So while teaching at Pausti, when I was talking about Baker, Ilri, etc., many of them were not aware. Even Kenyans. Even those, because at Pausti, they have international students they select from different parts of Africa. But I noticed that even Kenyans there had no ideas. Sometimes even lecturers have never been at Ilri. And we are talking about biotechnology at Juja, and we are doing a lot of animal biotechnologies and crop biotechnologies here. They just need that connection. And my vision from those Pan-African students was that they should be Pan-Africanist. Even if they are coming from Egypt or from Sudan or South Africa, they are not meant to work only in their home country. So they need to be connected to where the opportunities are and where the right science can really build their capacities. That's why while there, I connected to, I think it was now Wellington here, leading the capacity building. And I don't know who else was the head of Baker at that time. And I say yes, they approve the visit with Josephine. And I came here one day to organize how it will be, etc., how many students will be coming. And on the other side, I was organizing with the Pausti management for them to avail a car to organize the trip, etc.
Oh, so it was a school trip.
Was like a school trip, yes.
Okay.
So finally, and I also organized a meeting with Aisha, director. Yes, which is Aisha is regulating agriculture, biotechnology. It is contributing to build the capacity and to the regulations of biotechnology in Africa. And it is what the students are learning about at Georgia. So it was important for me to use that opportunity to meet Baker, to introduce them to Baker and to Aisha.
Aisha in full? Can you say to someone who's hearing and doesn't know what Aisha is?
Aisha is just here across the road within ILRI campus. It's international service for agri-biotech application. Yeah, and I need to go through the 3 A's which are there.
International Service for Acquisition of Agri-Biotech Applications.
Exactly, that's it.
Yeah, so, okay, so you can continue.
Yeah, so that's how I brought some students here. We also took some connections, and finally some PhD students have been completing their research from ILRI, from Baker here, as a fellow. Yeah, so I can say that was also a successful investment. And if you go through the Baker record, you see that many students have completed their fellowship from here using the facilities, the good supervisions that they have, and the high quality science that ILRI is making. Yeah, that's it. That's why my idea has always been, when working with students, connect them to the domains of applications. It can be academies, can be research, can be industry. Yes, give them the opportunity to really fly high.